I begin with an unpopular statement. You cannot save your way out of poverty. In the world of, let's say, social media, you see someone living the high life and they're telling you, I've invested, I'm an investor. They're not telling you the risks, they're not telling you the returns, they're just telling you invest, 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 this is the way. They're just telling you the positive side of it. The full story is...
Knowledge ya Roselyne Wanjiru on the money system is impressive.
5.1 trillion in local debt. People are putting collateral in terms of household items. Cars, fridges, TVs.
5.1
trillion in local borrowing. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are people borrowing?
There's a relationship between the people who are imprisoned in El Salvador and the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender.
I consider Bitcoin as a way of thinking.
Be it from a historical perspective.
We can't be suffering when some of you are living in luxury. It's just not right, okay?
Why do I get Murkomen vibes? 1913.
1913.
The present or the future.
75,000 Kenyans, sadly, and above 100,000.
Only 75,000 in a population of 53 million. And this is cumulatively.
Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
Is there a possibility that most of us have been misled on how exactly money works?
Oh Lord. Are you saying,
yes,
I don't want to derail your train of thought.
Yes.
But let's make a mental note.
Yes.
Investing is for people who don't earn enough.
Not just earn enough. Here's where investing comes in.
Roselyne Wanjiru wears many hats in the field of finance, among them being a Forbes contributor. We all love to understand how money works, the game of money. Our conversation with Roselyne on that subject takes it to a whole new level.
Thanks actually for that. If I put it that way, we have a diverse world, like bigger than we will ever be able to travel.
How practical is the new money system if what we are using is broken?
Where does it break and what does it mean?
All right, let's go back to history.
Our conversation is happening at Wojo, a premium co-working space located in Upper Hill, Makiwa Hotel, ilikuwa formerly Crown Plaza. A premium co-working space inamaanisha they have the whole idea ya office for you. So when you need office space, when you have office needs, you don't have to go furnish space, you need address. They can give you all that with flexible contracts, and they have very, very beautiful packages that come with getting a space at Wojo. Endless supply of coffee, endless supply of printing material, super fast Wi-Fi, and very, very affordable rates. Consumer rate to the quality that you're getting.
I love history, so I'm going to take you on a little bit of a history walk. So back in the day, barter trade, we didn't find it, but we read about it. People they had to have good relationships. People had to trust each other. People had to do the right thing with business.
Yes.
Because if you sell me bad apples, if you sell me bad avocados, guess what? I'm not buying from you. I'll go to the next person who has good food, good animals, or good vegetables, right?
Yes.
So in a community or a time where you have good money, it's that people can trust each other, people can build their societies, people can focus on giving the best of the value that they have, and you don't have to worry about, will the money be too expensive for this? Will it be too expensive for that?
Yes.
Actually, let's say that in that day you didn't make money, you won't starve. Let's say a few days you go without making some income, there'll be a social safety net. There's someone you go to and say like, hey, I have not made today's cut of sales that I needed to make, but can I have some bread? I'll work for you. There's good relationships. With bad money, the relationships are thrown out of the window because any resources, wealth, or concentration of money that has been created in the economy is circulated in a very tight circle, very, very tight circle. Well, the majority of the people have to deal with scraps and breadcrumbs from the system, which is what we have today. How did we get here? Right? Yes. That's one of the best questions. So in the early days, we had barter trade, and that's when social trust had to be high. You had to be good at what you're doing.
But the system was faulty.
Yes, it was faulty. It was not perfect.
The proper measurement of value.
Yes.
Okay.
It was arguable then,
yes.
but the social trust was high. Right? Then, because of all these arguments, people said, okay, we need a store of value, right?
Yes.
We need something that we can agree upon so that my estimation of cows, food, it doesn't clash with your estimation, or my needs don't clash with your needs, right?
Yes.
So people came up with salt, gold, cowrie shells, precious metals like silver, copper, and every like civilization had its own agreement or standard that it could rely upon. Now, if we study the different histories, be it Egypt, Mesopotamia, Babylon,
I think Sumeria was the first.
Sumeria was the first.
Roman,
Yes,
I think the Roman
Empire
were the first to give
yes,
currency.
Yes, yes. If you study each one of them, you would have a time of prosperity where we have agreed on the money. We can focus on trade. We know who owes what is doing what, and as business is circulating in the economy, then you have more safety nets. You have people growing strong. You have people taking more territories, right?
Yes, yes.
But when now they get a bit too greedy and they want to expand too fast, what do? They chip off parts of the let's say the copper or the gold that they have so that they can fund the wars or the warriors that are out there fighting, or the soldiers. And when they do that, it's effectively diluting the strength of the money that they have. So with wars, you find that if your army was weaker than the army that you're going to attack, you exhaust your money supply. And when you exhaust your money supply, they have to impose something like a tax, right? Because then you don't have more money in your, let's say, in your reserves. And you find that each of these great empires, they have a common theme that when you exhaust the money supply, and when you've gone to the people, taken up taxes, taken up their land, taken up their food, taken up their resources, these societies actually end up collapsing, right?
So, kidogo, when, say for example,
yes.
two armies are fighting,
yes.
and then your army is weaker,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So who imposes the tax?
You as the authority in that region.
Yes, so
yes.
The authority whose army is weaker.
Yes.
You impose a tax on your people.
Yes.
To gather more resources.
Yes.
To fund the war.
Yes, because remember, you don't have. You've exhausted what you had.
Yes.
But because you have the power, you have the might, you have the right to ask for that extra money, you get it from the people.
So what you're getting from the people, the justification in terms of value
yes.
is to conquer more territory.
Yes.
Okay.
And then back in the day, it's that you're taking the territory plus the people. So you're banking on their labor too. So if your math is wrong, it means that you lose. You lose what you had and you are taken over.
So
yes.
Basically, war is an investment, and it's basically when now you look as in deep into it, it's basically war is just competition for resources.
Conquest.
In terms of
yes.
more slaves,
yes.
more territory,
yes.
And to what end?
To what end?
Wadau, a quick interruption kabla tuendelee na story mazi. Najua inakatizia sana. Kat story imeshika. Toa kichwa hapo. Relax. This is important. Please allow me a few seconds to tell you something about our partners who, apart from helping us make this possible, like quality and good vibes, they also have value they will wish to offer you. In this case, allow me to introduce you to Pet Mall Shelters. Unataka kununua shamba? Uko na budget ya between 750,000 na 2.2 million na unataka mahali karibu na Nairobi. You want to deal with a reputable company. I encourage you to check out Pet Mall Shelters Limited. Wako located Kikuyu. They have a few projects that you may be interested in. Wako na Nawiri Gardens, iko phase 9 sai. Wako na Zuri Estate iko phase 2. Phase 1 is sold out. Wako na Prosperity Gardens, and the plots are strategically placed near water and electricity, and the beacons are clearly marked, and most importantly, the title deeds are ready. And here's more good news. When you purchase land or when you get into an engagement with Pet Mall Shelters, they have a flexible payment plan of up to 12 months. Pet Mall Shelters Limited is an award-winning land selling company. So if this falls in your alley, if your budget inachezea hapo 750,000 to 2.2 million, I encourage you, check out Pet Mall Shelters. They have something for you. The contact details ndio tumewekea hapa kwa the screen.
In terms of
Yes.
more slaves,
Yes.
more territory,
Yes.
and to what end?
To what end? The goal is domination, right? If I know that your region has better food, if I know that your region has better water,
I come for you.
I come for you.
Okay.
That's
okay.
how ancient civilizations, in some instances, dealt with each other. But we do have other civilizations that would collaborate and trade. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So for long, we've had trade relationships defining society, how society grows, right?
Yes.
So people built ships, people built different means and ways of communicating with each other because they wanted to grow. But in the places or in the cultures where trade did not prevail, war was there. Yes.
Niuzie ama nikupige.
Yes.
In summary.
I'm here to take, not to negotiate.
How similar is that to what is going on in the world today?
Thinking about it, we've seen different conquests in different territories, right? And I had to, navigate sometimes the geopolitical situation because it's quite sensitive if you think about it, right?
Yes.
As an example, let's think about DRC Congo. It's been in conflict for so long, but we read about the mineral value of unearthed and minerals that are still there at trillions of dollars. So sometimes you wonder, is it that these trillions of dollars have to sit there for someone else to take away? Or is it that there will be a time that there will be a leadership that will raise the bar so high and say, no more extraction. It's time for negotiation, or it's time for different terms.
Okay.
We're seeing it in West Africa, right? It may not be it may be too early to tell the success of, for example, some of the changes in policies about the extraction of minerals, but we are seeing for the first time, perhaps in a long time, an African leader stepping up to say, we need different terms. We are going to have different terms. And we're not just going to sit back and watch our resources vanish before our eyes.
Okay.
The proverbial resource curse of Africa is that resource-rich regions tend to be underdeveloped or kept in perpetual conflict.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now back to good money and bad money.
Yes.
So good money is where trust is at the center of it.
Yes.
Bad money is when trust is thrown out of the window.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So in today's society, right, can good money exist? Because for the money to change, like the face of money to change, they say, for example, the movement from the gold standard to the fiat currency was so that money can be mobile.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is it like do you think the good money system based on trust is sustainable with growing population?
Yes, fundamentally it's sustainable. It's a matter of principle, and there are different economies that are able to put that in place, right? I'll give an example of El Salvador. Some may prefer, some may not want to study it. But in the last 3 years, they've been able to effect some changes. One of them is that they legislated Bitcoin as legal tender, accepting it as a form of reserve. So they've been buying at least one Bitcoin I think it's every day, but they've been increasing their reserve progressively over the last 2 years since they issued it as legal tender. So in a way, that also means that other countries or other people can hold it as a foreign currency, not just as a digital currency. That aside, there were other policy changes that happened in the country, and one of them is that crime has gone down significantly. Most of the gangs that were terrorizing the citizens, most of them were actually imprisoned. It's one of the case studies that back, let's say last year, international bodies did not want that policy to proceed, but
There's
it's
a
stuck.
relationship
Yes.
between the people who are imprisoned in El
Yes.
Salvador
Yes.
and the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender.
Correlated. Let's just say they're happening at the same time.
Because I've seen the story,
Yes.
and the president,
Yes.
anaitwa Bekele ama
Yes.
something.
Nayib Bukele.
Yes. He has been criticized heavily
Yes.
because of the mass incarcerations
Yes.
of people from the street, right?
Yes.
How is this related to Bitcoin as legal tender?
Right. So, in one way, it's that you can't just have, for example, Bitcoin as itself fixing the entire country at the same time. It's that I consider Bitcoin as a way of thinking, right? Not just as a form of money, because when you think about some of the ideas that are related to it, then it creates a bit of a spillover effect. So it's that if you're creating, for example, security in money, why shouldn't you have security in policy, security for communities, security in banking, security in business, trade, and tourism? And those are some of the related offshoots that are being seen on the ground. So as I said at the beginning, it's not the perfect example, but something positive is actually happening that other countries can learn from.
Okay.
Yeah.
We mentioned Bitcoin, but
Yes.
tulitokea kwa barter trade and
Yes.
the system of trust.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think one of the reasons I was excited, I'm excited to have this conversation is how passionate you are about the idea of a broken money system.
Yes.
Where does it break and what does it mean?
All right, let's go back to history. 1913, we were not born. But something significant happened. The Federal Reserve System was created. And
1930?
Yes, like 1913, and legislated into law. So that's about 111 years of something that's existed and set the pace for other countries.
Yes.
Now, when the Federal Reserve was created, at that or prior to that, the people who were building America at the time wanted to focus on trade. They wanted to break away from a central banking system as it was previously in England back then.
Yes.
So if you read about the Civil War, that was one of the key areas of conflict, because the central banking as at then had created a system where merchants became richer than all traders. The wealth gap had already started has already started building up from then.
Wealth gap is not a new problem.
Not a new problem.
The gap between the rich and the poor is not new.
Not new.
It was there in the old money
It's
system.
quite old.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the era of monarchs and aristocrats, wealthy families, if you read about the French Revolution, it's that imbalance that had gotten to a critical threshold, and people said, no, we can't be suffering when some of you are living in luxury. It's just not right, okay?
Why do I get Murkomen vibes? 1913.
1913.
Carry on.
So when the Federal Reserve is created, one interesting thing happens. It doesn't come out as central bank. The same thing you guys were fighting to end. No. It's supposed to be a trusted system, a strong, predictable way of controlling market booms and busts.
Controlling market booms and busts.
Yes. Because, again, with trade, you've had times of high prosperity. Markets are going, everything, everybody's just prosperous. Then, one sudden change and everything is going down. So the idea of the Federal Reserve back then was that, wait a minute, let's have some regulation. Let's have balance. Did that end? No, we've still had
This
booms
was in
and busts.
1913.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because it gets worse in 1929.
Yes.
So human beings have not learned.
Not.
Okay.
Not learned. Why? Because at the same 1913 that becomes law.
Yes.
Most people haven't understood what it will entail, right? So people will speculate between this time you had the First World War, 1913 to 1929, right? At this point in time in the Americas, it's that most people are looking to the stock markets to build wealth.
Okay.
Right? Because they've seen the example, they've seen merchants putting money somewhere and wait a minute,
Getting something.
you
in
know, you're
return.
getting something in return. You're not a farmer,
Yes.
you're not a teacher, you're not a philosopher, you're not an artist, but you do this thing called stocks. I will learn what stocks are and I'll put my money there.
Yes.
So everyone thought it's a steady up for everybody until 1929 checks in and reminds them, you're dealing with a monetary system. The market crash happens. But it's so slow that most people don't feel the effect until 1930.
Okay.
And that's why the Great Depression went on from literally the tail end of 1929, September 1929, into the 30s. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, this Federal Reserve, like what the system was broken before.
Yes.
They come in as a solution. What were they changing? And, or what did they not change?
All right. So what were they changing? One of the key things was the issuance of the decree that the public could no longer hold gold or gold certificates. That gold and gold certificate in the public had to come back to the government.
Wait.
Yes.
I thought the gold standard
Yes.
was cleared in 1971-72.
We are leading up to that.
Before,
Yes.
the public held gold certificates.
They could hold gold.
They could hold gold.
Yes. Gold or gold certificates, a certificate that you could exchange at a reserve bank or a bank and get actual gold.
Equivalent to the value that you hold
Yes.
in the certificate.
Yes.
That was before the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
So the Federal Reserve comes. What do they change? As in, they change that you can no longer hold the certificate.
Yes, the gold, physical gold, like a bar of gold or a gold certificate in demanding issuance of gold as a private citizen. So this was Executive Order 1902, if I remember it correctly, but we can refer. So this was meant to be that the reserve holds the gold and then it controls the issuance of money.
Okay.
Yes. So it's meant to be that instead of us as private citizens saying that, hey, I can pay you in gold. No, right now it's that I'll pay you in the US dollar, which is as good as gold, instead of us interacting with each other in gold terms.
How is that different from the migration, the transition to fiat currency in 1971?
Right. So in 1913, the gold standard is still in effect, right? That every dollar that's printed is
Corresponds
backed.
to?
Yes, the gold reserves. There's a direct relationship.
Yes.
But in 1971, that direct relationship is suspended. So it means that the issuance of currency is based on trust in the government or the Federal Reserve rather than how much gold there is. By this time, the Second World War has happened. Countries, economies, societies are left reeling in the aftermath of war. They need to rebuild.
Yes.
Where are they going to get the money from? They can't just tax their people at this point in time. So cue in the Bretton Woods institutions, and the agreements are, we may not give you gold. Instead, we will give you debt at low terms. You rebuild, and when you prosper, you repay.
That is to governments or to individuals?
To governments.
Okay, and the debt, but debt existed even before this so-called?
Yes. So what's the difference in terms of 1971 for debt is that before this time, debt has existed. It's existed between governments, merchants, private citizens. Debt is a promise that I will repay if you give me this money, right?
Yes.
In some cultures, the debt does not have interest. But in some cultures, debt has interest, right? I think in the Islamic system, it's that interest is regarded as forbidden. But in other cultures, it's that interest is allowed until a certain limit. So the fact is, if you know you have interest to repay, you're obliged, you must repay, or else you will lose something.
Yes.
But that something is based on what you promised that if you give me X, I will give you X back plus Y
Okay.
to prove that my reputation is worth
Okay.
building upon.
Okay.
Yes.
So the system that comes in
Yes.
1913, instead of fixing, it breaks the system further or it makes it easier. In this sense,
Yes.
we have people who have gotten rich.
Yes.
More people have gotten rich from the new money system
Yes.
that comes in, just that the booms and busts, in the best explanation I've come across, is that when people get excited, when things seem to be going so well,
Yes.
people forget about how economic systems work,
They
then you
forget.
have to go back to square one,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So would it, if people manage two things, one, people have gotten rich from that.
Yes.
Does it mean that if people managed their greed, would never have the busts?
Thanks for that. Actually, when I think about it, if people did manage their greed, we may not have the excessive boom and the excessive busts, because greed defines or greed drives interest, right? Let's say I want to go from a studio to a 1-bedroom house, to a 2-bedroom house, to a 3-bedroom house, to a 4-bedroom house, 5-bedroom house, because I'm seeing, yeah, if I have such a big house, I can host more people. And if I have an even bigger place, I can host more parties. That status that you get, right? And when is enough enough? That's a very hard question to answer for most people, because sometimes you look at someone who has billions and you're wondering, why are you looking for more? When is enough for you?
Yes.
And you can look at, on this other end, someone who has literally 5,000 in their account and they are happy, they are content, they are at peace. They don't want more. They just don't want the stress that they would associate with managing more money, looking for security for it, governing their life in a certain way. Because, the saying, more money, more problems.
Also, less money, more problems. In this sense,
Yes.
you're comfortable
Yes.
with your 5K until you need to solve an emergency.
Yes.
Like in the money system that's already created, healthcare, and I think it's one of the things we discuss in our brief.
Yes.
Healthcare, for example, has been destroyed by the current money system.
Yes.
So you may be happy with your 5K until you need to access some services in the broken system already.
Yes.
Right? So is it fair to say that the idea of looking for safety in an already broken system is how people always want more?
Yes, definitely. And healthcare is the best example, because when you think about either yourself or a loved one who needs admission, if we just look at admission fees in some hospitals, you hear the bill and you want to, you feel like some capillaries are bursting in your mind.
Yes.
And you wonder, where is the value for human life? That's when we start wondering. And then it reminds us, wait a minute, if I can't get this money from maybe my friends or family or for some savings, I need to work differently. So that if I hear that this medical bill is 50,000, 200,000, or 300,000, I'm not going to lose my mind.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are people who are successful
Yes.
with barter trade.
Yes.
Successful.
Yes.
There are people who are successful
Yes.
with the money system before the Federal Reserve.
Yes, gold standard.
Yes.
Yes.
There are people who have been successful with the
Debt system.
The debt system.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Successful.
Yes.
Comfortable
Big
life
time. Yes.
and stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So does it mean that the idea is not to have one system for all? Everyone subscribe. Would it be better or safer if everybody had a system that works for them?
Thanks actually for that. If I put it that way, we have a diverse world, like bigger than we will ever be able to travel and see and visit. But if we had the opportunity to travel to different countries, let's say You go to China, I go to Australia, someone else goes to the UK, someone else lives in the US, someone else in Brazil, someone else in Africa, Mozambique, Kenya.
Yeah.
And we come back and sit down and catch up on life. Like, how's life going? How are you able to achieve your goals? And we share from that. We're able to see these systems exist in different degrees at the same time, right?
Okay.
Within, say, stronger economies, or what we call, or what we know right now as the G7, it's that they have the highest per capita income, for example, right? You could be a doctor making 6 figures, 7 figures, more or less, and you would not necessarily have to invest or save as much as someone else in a different system who needs to save, invest, and work.
Oh Lord. Are you saying,
Yes.
Akianani, I don't want to derail your train of thought,
Yes.
but let's make a mental note.
Yes.
Investing
Yes.
is for people who don't earn enough.
Not just earn enough. Here's where investing comes in. In a good monetary system, let's say the money retains its value. Let me give an example of a house, right? Let's say this 4-bedroom house, which you can host your family comfortably, not just, or maybe if it's just yourself staying there, cost about initially $10,000 20 years ago. If the monetary system, hypothetically, was still strong and it didn't have to be devalued over time, then that $10,000 wouldn't take you too long to get. Let's say within 3 years of working, saving, you're able to get that. But right now, the same house costs about $80,000, $90,000, $120,000.
So in Kenyan shillings,
Yes.
a house
Yes.
that you could get for
$1 million even.
$1 million even,
Yes, yes.
right now is around
20 million.
20 million.
Yes.
20 times.
14 to 20 million thereabouts. Yes. Let me give an example of, let's say, where Kilimani, Kileleshwa.
Yeah.
In 2004, 2005, the average classified would feature a home at 400,000, 500,000 for sale. Bungalow, maisonette, you have the land, everything. I think on the higher side, it would be 600,000. Right now, the same properties are going for
15 million, 20,
26.
35.
Yes, yes. And for that, you find that for most people, it's either you either own that on mortgage or on loan or not at all.
Okay.
Or then again, you have the other guys who come and stash some extra millions they don't know what to do with.
Sawa. So now,
Yes.
You are comparing the experience in different countries.
Yes.
For someone in Australia, someone in Africa somewhere,
Yes.
someone earns 6 figures in America.
Yes.
I didn't want to derail your train of thought.
Yes.
Break it down.
Right. So let me break it down. As it stands, about 45% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency bill.
It's $400. In fact, it's 75% cannot afford 75%, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Because I can quote that on from multiple sources.
Yes.
$400. I marked
$400 emergency bill.
Yes, because around 40,000. Yes.
Yes. And it might look like an amount you can wonder, wait a minute, you're earning 6 figures, you're working 3 jobs, why can't you afford that? But when you study, for example, since the lockdown period till now, they've had interest rates driving up the cost of things as a ripple effect, right?
Yes.
So it would mean that whatever you were affording 4 years ago, you can't afford now, or you're struggling to afford. Job postings have been quite contentious because you find that it's existing job holders taking new postings. So you can't really say that it's new jobs for new people who haven't necessarily been absorbed into the job economy. So for that 6 figures, it may look like it's 6 figures, but you're not seeing the rates that are eating away at that money. So this person literally can't invest. Let's come home to Kenya. Someone earning 6 figures. Let's say, you've crossed the 100,000. You've crossed maybe 200,000, right? Minus taxes. Let's even say you're living in a modest place. Your rent is like 40,000 or give or take. Assuming that this person doesn't have loans, what are they really able to do with that money?
Assuming this person doesn't have loans.
Yes, assuming they don't have loans. Because statistics do show that for example, Fuliza, last year they lent what? About, how many billions were they? About 200 billion, give or take, if I remember correctly. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are people borrowing 5.1 trillion in local debt? People are putting collateral in terms of household items, cars, fridges, TVs,
5.1
trillion in local borrowing. Our debt default rate, based on Kenya banking statistics, 15.5%.
15.5% of
Default, yeah,
That's good
of
news.
existing loans.
That's good news.
That's good news.
15%. 15%. I thought,
But
15%.
compared to our neighbors, it's that they're in the single digit ballpark. We are okay,
thought-
as it
okay.
stands, okay, on a positive.
When I saw like
Yes.
auctioneers booking pages and
Yeah.
loads of pages
7
in the
pages
papers,
at the
yes,
least. Yes.
I was like, this, it's probably in the 60%. So ukisema 15%, I'm like,
Okay, that's bank loans.
oh, bank loans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not counting the mobile loans and other types of loans that are there in the economy.
So people are defaulting in your assessment. People are defaulting because the money system is a lie, or people are defaulting because they don't know how to leverage on debt, or people are defaulting because it's survival.
All of those reasons apply to different people. Let me bring it from this perspective. You have people who have a level of financial literacy, and they know, if I'm getting into a loan, I'll have to repay within this period, right? And I will have to rearrange my finances to this extent so that I can handle what's going on.
Yes.
Then you have people who don't have financial literacy. That's a secondary problem, in the sense that I want this car. I want this car now. I'm seeing my ads. My friends have cars. I have to have this car. You know, I need to spend money to make money. So someone goes and gets a loan, either hire purchase or whatever terms, and I'm not hating on the CX5, but they decide, yes, CX5, I have to get it. I have to get it. Now, at the point that you're getting your darling wine red CX5, and interest rates haven't been increased. When they're increased, guess what? Your CX5 becomes more expensive. But at that point, your car's already depreciated.
Or the car is losing value.
Yes.
But what you're paying for it goes high.
Goes up.
So you're losing times 2.
You are. And that's the unpopular side some people find out when they're reading the fine print, not before. Right? So some people literally have to let go of the cars that they have gotten because they can't afford. Yes.
But in terms of, again, tying it to the concept of a broken money system,
Yes.
I'm struggling. Tuanze now, the current, I've had an interview with the current or
Yes.
the new CS for Treasury.
Yes.
He said his net worth is over 300 million, right? And when I spoke to him during an interview we had with him, he told me that he doesn't do business.
Yeah.
So he does not invest. So can we start with, there are people who make enough money that they don't need to invest to grow their wealth.
Yes.
So is investing for poor people?
It's not for poor people. Investing is a factor of a system that you have to get value. I'll say it's an open invitation, right? Let me call it an invitation in this sense. We have different phone brands. iPhone, Samsung, Redmi, Oppo,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. The options exist at the same time. Fans of one brand can choose to be to another brand, but you find that the fans of one brand tend to stick to that brand because they are, they're diehards. In the investing world, if we talk about basic kinds of investment or complex kinds of investment, it's that they are open, anyone can invest. But when we cross the other side and we go deeper into what is required of me as an investor, you'll find that some investments require that you have higher capital to begin with than other investments.
Capital.
Yes. So if, let's say, a specific investment platform or arrangement requires you as an investor to bring in at least $1 million, are you a poor person?
Okay.
You can't
No, you're
participate
not.
if you're
You're
a
not.
poor
You're-
person.
you're- you
But
can't.
it's designed to operate for that kind of capital level.
Are you saying
Yes.
that to some extent, investing is a concept to pretend you're busy? In this sense, two people,
Yes.
one earns 10 million shillings
Yes.
as a salary, and another person earns 10 million shillings from business,
Yes.
right? There are people who would advise the person who earns as a salary, like they need to invest their money, they need to,
Grow.
yes, their money can
Yes.
sustain their lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Is the person who earns 10 million from business better off than the person who earns 10 million as a salary?
In some ways, the person who is in business is actually in an advantage. Why? Because if I think of a business as an investment that's bringing in capital flow, that's bringing in a return, I need to consider how much return this business is bringing me at this point in time. And in the business world, that's how we see growth businesses that go from zero to like hundreds of thousands of users. Then we see businesses that have matured and have sort of plateaued at a certain level. So they're not necessarily bringing in growth. And then you see businesses that either close, sell, transition into a different industry or something like that. I would love to get into different business documentaries, but that's for another day. However, it's a journey of growth that you learn to create value.
But you can also get promoted at work.
Yes, now you can get promoted. So let me get to the salary side now. So it's not bad to have, that high salary. It's okay. You can sustain your lifestyle, fine. Just earn, be where you are, and live your life, right? However, if we consider in the long term, let's say, especially for people in political circles, the uncertain is certain.
Both worlds.
Yes.
Business, COVID can happen.
Yes.
Uncertainty is everywhere.
It's everywhere, right? But for the person in political circles, it's a matter of personal alliances. You don't control that necessarily.
So
Yes.
they know, in fact, I think the person, let's say, for example, let's say the salary is general.
Yes.
For the person who earns through politics, they know how to survive in that area.
They know.
So they know how to manage the risks. Hizo zingine ni unavoidable circumstances.
Yes.
The person who is in business, same case.
Also has to deal with that, yes. So investing is meant to be a safety net of sorts, in the sense that if I'd put this 10 million in a dividend or in a structure that will give me return without me having to work, then why not put it there? It's logical. Yes. So for people who don't want to invest because they want the cash flow side, that exists at the same time with people who say, I'm thinking about the risk. I'm thinking about eventualities. I'm thinking about my what if, and I want this safety net to take care of me in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now,
and that is instead of someone who would take debt from the future to take care of their now. Because debt and investing actually operate now in those, I would say, side by side or opposites. Because in investing, you're sending money to the future.
in investing, you're sending money to the future.
Yes. And with debt, you're taking money from the future.
Or investing, you're sending money to the future.
Yes.
In debt, you're taking money from the future.
Yes.
So you can't have both. See, people take debt, you borrow money from the future to send more money to the future.
Now that's neither here nor there, because in a sense, for someone who is taking constructed debt or low interest debt to invest in their business or to invest in a specific agreement or arrangement, I've seen people do that with capital markets and stocks. they've done their analysis. Some of them have done their research and it can work for them.
What is that?
Let me give an example. Let's say you were not able to afford NVIDIA shares and you want to buy like 1,000 of them and it requires a certain capital amount. If you're able to get, again, remember what I said, that some investments require a higher capital input than others. So if someone has done their research, done their analysis, done their calculations, and they see that this is the best option for them, it is possible, it is doable.
To go borrow a bank loan?
Not necessarily a bank loan, but within the financial system.
Why are you very specific that not necessarily a bank loan?
Right, because it depends on which, for example, instrument you're considering from a bank. So let's say if our interest rates are double digits on the higher side.
22% around
Yes,
thereabout?
yes.
You
And
take that,
yes.
invest in shares, kama NVIDIA, for example. Let's say you take $1 million, Bob, invest in shares, right? You have done your analysis and you predict it will go up. It will give you 2 million. Sindio?
That's what I'm saying, the big if. If you're looking at, yeah, it's a big if, because if your rate of interest is higher than the possible return you could get.
Return.
Yes. Because with investment, remember, it's not guaranteed. It's the markets are out of your control as an individual investor.
So,
yes.
pesa, making money, we cannot separate that from profiteering, like prophecy, predicting.
Yes.
This will go.
Yes.
Now, the possibility of getting jinxed is also 100%.
There, you have to be ready for it. Because one of the things I see, unfortunately, happening is in the world of, let's say, social media, you see someone living the high life and they're telling you, I've invested, I'm an investor. They're not telling you the risks, they're not telling you the returns, they're just telling you invest, 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 this is the way. They're just telling you the positive side of it. The full story is there's the good side, there's the bad side. You have to prepare yourself for both.
Okay.
Yes.
My favorite analogy is the Russian roulette. Analysis.
Yes.
Yeah, Nassim Taleb, where, and I quote him a lot, dear Lord. So now,
yes.
Anasema, no one has the capacity to predict the market. No one.
No one.
So hakuna chati, you've done your research. Itakuramba bado, possibility.
It will, especially as a retail investor.
And the analysis is, si Russian roulette, ile ya 1 bullet kwa 6 chambers.
Yes.
Inamaanisha, there's a likelihood.
Any one of them.
Any one of them. It could be the first one.
Yes.
It could be the last one.
Yes.
So life sana in terms of randomness is like that, but some people have more chambers.
Yes.
So when you have more chambers, like let's say 100 chambers, alafu labda iko mahali huko, so when you try ya kwanza 20, 30. So unafika mahali, you think, wewe sasa wewe ni baba yao. You understand?
Yes.
But it is somewhere there.
It's somewhere there.
It will leak you at some point.
Yes.
So basi tuseme, with all the analysis we do, is it right to conclude that anything that involves money, right, is pure guesswork and luck?
Humility comes in there. Just be humble.
Humble in the bullet.
No, humble in the thinking about it, doing it, and taking the consequences. Because if you go there, let's say, I'm the king of this, I'm going to make it, and then it works against you. Will it crush you? Is that the end of life? You have to find a way to get back in the markets. Go find something else to do.
And gamble more.
Well, some gamble, some work. It's a diverse. It's about.
Sawa.
Yeah.
So in terms of, please, there's a concept I picked from what you said, and I don't know how I have not interacted with that before. I don't know how. Wealth creation and wealth extraction.
Yes.
Please break that down for us.
Right. There's this book I enjoyed reading like 3 years ago too. No, actually 4 years ago, called Donut Economics by Kate Raworth. And the book talks about when you think about wealth creation versus wealth extraction, remember the example I was giving about barter trade. So with barter trade, it was simple that most people will interact based on, I want to create the best art, I want to have the best animals, I want to have the best food. You're giving your best foot forward as an approach. You're bringing value to the market, knowing that someone else will appreciate it. That's your expectation of return,
Yes.
right? But with extraction, it's that I didn't work for this, I will take it.
I didn't work for this.
I will take it. It's not about my effort, it's about someone else's effort.
Give us an example. Who
Yes.
is this person who says, I did not work for it, I'll take it?
In the barter trade system, it's a bandit or it's a robber. You're going there with your, your cows, your sheep, your produce, your avocados, nicely to the next market. They know very well you'll pass by here. They just time you and decide to take everything so they can sell it in the next market.
So that's a summary of what the system we have now.
Of which, how are we seeing it? We see people, putting in the hours, working multiple jobs, trying to bring in income. Because the one income that would have sustained you, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago, it's not enough right now. So you find that a lot of people have to have side hustles just to put bread on the table, to put food on the table, keep the lights on, have some internet, maybe pursue education, and of course take care of health like we had mentioned, right? Then you have on this other side, someone who will just buy one policy, take out more and more and more and more and more and more. As a very recent example, the rate of taxation that was going to hit Kenya with the finance bill, most businesses were giving their estimates. If you implement this tax, we are losing 8 billion. If you implement this tax, we're losing 2 billion. If you implement this tax, XYZ cannot happen, cannot happen, cannot happen. That is extractive.
Wealth extraction.
Yes.
From that analysis, I don't think anything has changed.
No.
Because if in the barter trade system,
Yes.
people would time you and steal your cows.
Yes.
See, it's just the people who have upgraded into the new system.
They have upgraded.
So it basically means that human beings are still the same people in the barter trade system.
Yes.
We've just adapted.
Yes. Actually, one of the things that's helped me understand money in a very simple way, yes, there are complex systems. Yes, there's a lot of information. There are a lot of documentaries that people can look into just to see the history, the evolution, and just how things have changed over time. But when you study just human relationships, human society, human psychology, you realize some things haven't changed. Greed is the same old.
It's the same.
Power is the same old. Poverty is the same old. The dynamics just take on different forms.
Okay.
Yes.
So then, Basi, it means, I would say this, in the barter system, the population was small.
Yes.
Mini.
Yes.
Then when you come, say the world is bigger,
Yes.
we have found a system that accommodates more people.
Yes.
And we have also increased thieves in the same proportion as there were in the barter trade system.
Perhaps even more.
Then we are complaining about a broken money system, but the idea is the money system in itself has never been legit.
It has never been legit. The thing is, what I realize again, as we deal with human nature, the need for power or the pursuit of power, it's as age-old as we want, as far back as we want to go, right?
Yes.
People who want to be rulers, kings, they fight to keep their families as far as possible. They will make sure they have heirs. They will make sure they arrange marriages, alliances, contracts, and agreements to protect their power. We've seen that in just every other social system that will exist, whereby the rich keep the riches that they've accumulated over time within a close-knit, tight circle.
Okay.
Yes.
What, from your experience, what's the reality of saving your way out of poverty? This is, in fact, if you can give us your personal experience, because you're very big on digital assets.
Yes.
But your experience, the money system that we say people are transitioning from.
Yes.
What is your experience?
I begin with an unpopular statement. You cannot save your way out of poverty.
Depending on how much you earn.
It doesn't matter how you earn, but you can't save your way out of poverty.
Hata if you're earning 6 figures.
You know why? Here's the why. When you're trying to save out of poverty, you have to make other sacrifices at the same time, right? So let's say you're supporting siblings, younger ones who are still in school, right, at the same time. Or maybe you're supporting elderly parents who didn't get their pension in time. And this is one of the serious pain points in Kenya. One of the statistics that struck me in the last month or two, Kenyan retirees among the poorest in the world.
That concept has never made sense to me in this sense. Like you work and save a fraction of your salary, right?
Yes, yes.
For after 40 years, right? And then when you retire, kwani you want to survive on a fraction of what you've been saving, yet the cost of living is going high. Money is losing value.
Yes.
If you save 1,000 shillings from your salary, if you save 10,000 from your salary, 50 years from now,
Yes.
I believe they are counting it as 10,000 50 years from now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In fact, it means it's, from the conversation with Rufus,
Yes.
if you cover inflation, it's worthless.
It is worthless, and that's your answer right there. Because I've seen close family unable to retire just because you're looking at the math. This pension I've worked for my entire life, and I can't live on this. Did you do the wrong thing to save? No.
You saved.
You saved. You were not lazy. You were working. You gave it your best, maybe even invested. But now when you want to take a step back and eat the fruit of your labor, you can't. Why? Because it's worthless.
Are children the enemy of wealth creation?
Nope, quite the opposite.
Because when people talk,
Yes.
You've saved, you've taken children to school. If you decide to eat your money alone,
Yes.
you say, I'll eat my money peke
Alone,
yangu.
yes.
Na kila mtu ajichungie watoto wake. That's not a safe bet.
It's not a safe bet. I'll give you a recent demographic study that was done in, I think, the United States, but it covers a couple of countries, right?
Yes, yes.
Let me give a spotlight of Japan as an example. Japan, as strong as an economy as it is in the declining population era. They've been already having less children over time.
Yes.
India, the number of births has reduced from above 3 to less than 1. It's like 1.2 right now. India. Yes, one of the fastest growing populations.
India, even if they reduce.
Yes.
Even if they reduce.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How many? India, even if they reduce, even if India stops having children now, I don't think Kenya can catch up with them in 100 years.
Not in 100
You understand?
years, right? Yes.
Japan, they've been having fewer children.
Yes.
But in terms of wealth for the system,
yes,
they are relatively wealthier than the countries that have more children.
Now, here's the slight thing that a lot of people forget, right? That in having more children, especially in an economy that's stable, you're having more people who can actually contribute to the future of the nation.
Contribute or take away from your... pay more taxes.
It's not just taxes.
As in, you're producing taxpayers. Because what is building of a nation?
What's the building of a nation? I mean, it's, let's think about this place, for example.
Yes.
It's AC, interior design. Someone had to build that.
Yes,
if they weren't born, that wasn't going to happen.
Then see, other people
Yes.
can have children who can, as in, if you made an individual
Yes.
responsibility,
Yes.
would it guarantee you a better quality of life? Wachana na building a nation. If you decide like, uangalie this economy, useme,
Sitaki kuwa na watoto.
wacha nisilete.
I don't want to have
Let me
kids.
eat my money. It doesn't guarantee you a better quality of life.
For some, honestly, it may. For some, it may not. You know why I don't want to put it as an absolute? Because there are people who, by choice, are not able, or by choice, they don't
Yes.
want to have children. There are people who, by circumstance, are not able
They
to have
can,
children
yes, yes.
medically. Then there are those who, between choice and circumstance, they decide, oh man, my time, okay, I'm not able to actually have children. Those circumstances exist, whether the monetary system is good or not. It is just within human society.
Yes, yes, yes.
The fact is, we cannot isolate our personal choices from the collective, because our societies are connected, our economies are connected. Globally, locally, it's all connected. And that's why I've highlighted the example, for instance, of Japan, that yes, as at this point, it is a strong economy, but in the next decade, these dynamics could change.
So they
Yes.
could have enjoyed prosperity for some time,
Yes.
but they could be setting themselves up for poverty in the long term.
Yes.
Okay, I get
Is it an absolute term? Just as we were talking about it earlier, as an individual, I cannot predict, but I can see a few things and be like, yes, this is possible. This might happen. What if this scenario doesn't happen? You know. So Africa's growth dynamics as at now, we still have a net positive population growth rate. So we may not be feeling, we're not in a position yet to feel the impact of either a new generation not wanting to have children, or like the wealth distribution dynamics and things like that. We may not yet feel it as at now. But for especially developing economies that are beginning to experience the population decline, it could be that some of them will institute policies. For example, to
force people to make children.
not just some will pay. You know, some will give you, let's say, a grant of $50,000 incentive. Yeah, you can't force people to have children. But yes, if you give a family $50,000 or $60,000 extended maternal leave or paternal leave, then you're obviously
But they don't need the
incentivized.
money because they have the money.
That's it. It depends on their policies.
Okay.
Yes.
Sasa kuna kitu I've not understood. Wealth creation
Yes.
based on trust.
Yes.
But we also agree that when you look deep enough, humans have not changed. They're the same thing.
Humans are the same.
Right?
Yes.
So let's say wealth extraction. Wealth extraction, again, taxation has been there.
Yes.
So it's even worse when I got the proper explanation of what the hat tax is.
Yes.
Was.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So taxation is not new. Okay? As in hakuna kitu mpya, like nothing is new. Right? I think in my simplistic analysis is what has just changed is an increase in population,
Yes.
an increase in information. Say the world is more digital now, we have access to information. But if we had an instrument to measure the levels of suffering, you'll find that probably the suffering is equal
Yes.
to 1927. Right? Just that we are suffering under self-awareness.
Yes.
We are suffering with information. Like we are suffering and we know. It's not a surprise.
Yes, it's not a surprise. In fact, now we're more exposed to the suffering than before. Yes.
So wealth creation and wealth extraction. When you think about it from this perspective, right? Can we collectively agree that life is basically a game of chance? Because with the extreme levels of poverty, we have success stories of people who come from there,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
To actually make it to the top.
Yes.
Top or to the top 1%, right?
Yes.
Circumstances. Can we just agree basi then there is nothing like fixing the monetary system? Ni wewe bahati yako ikiingiana.
I did honestly think that, and we've seen sheer determination, willpower, people honestly putting their all into their skill, be it in sports, be it in art, be it in music, be it in even just business. And we've seen sports, especially sports people and artists, making some amazing money and impact in the society, because your rise and your hope for one person, it's it's a message of hope to someone else, like you can actually do it, right? Now, on the other hand, it's that we know, if you know, for example, that you can do something better, then why not? So if we know, for instance, that the monetary system that we have has its cracks, has its brokenness, then why not think about doing something better? Because let me go back in time. I love history any day, anytime. Back in the day, let me say as an example for women that education for women was limited heavily. You know, going past, let's say, primary education to high school and higher learning for women, it was contentious for a very long time. But one barrier after another was broken. One barrier after another was broken. We saw more women getting into academia, breaking barriers of becoming masters, lecturer, professor, doctorate, and we saw that this is possible, right? So when something better is made known, it remains as a possibility that it exists. It may not happen immediately. So for example, in Kenya's monetary system, we've seen the level of debt go from under 2 trillion to 11 trillion, right? It didn't get there overnight. It's been a 10-year window. One of the things that happened as a contributor to that was that the right or the responsibility of Parliament to oversee that, that determination of debt for development was taken over to the executive. So that's why the executive can say, we want debt for XYZ, big projects, and not necessarily that debt ends up in development. That's why the rule was broken.
Okay.
So if we know the rule was broken at that point and it's landed us in debt that is demanding our taxes in the name of, I think you've seen the debate between sovereign debt and odious debt. And odious debt is the debt that has been taken in the name of Kenya but has not done any benefit to the citizens of Kenya or to Kenya as a country.
Yes.
That's the area of contention that people are saying, wait a minute, we can actually have a contrary approach to this. It doesn't have to be always this way, right? We saw Kenya, rising from 170 billion to over $1 trillion in revenue. And that rise, for, let's say it's a 10x difference, more people have money, more people can do business. If, again, if we go back to the 6-figure bit, but now imagine 1,000 Kenyans or 50,000 Kenyans earning $100,000, wouldn't they do business here?
Okay.
Right? By contrast, where are we? It's that 75,000 Kenyans, sadly, earn above 100,000. 75,000.
As in, as a number.
As a number.
75,000 Kenyans.
Yes.
And
above 100,000.
Only 75,000 in a population of 53 million. And this is cumulatively, and 100,000 and above per month. Only 75,000.
Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. If you check the website again, the poverty rate is at 38.6%, and this was at 2021. Where is it now?
In 2021.
Some of our statistics are not 2024, 2023. So something like the poverty index.
Yes.
With, again, some of the most recent statistics, like in the last 4 years, wage growth has stagnated and actually decreased in Kenya.
Is this by design? Look at it this way. 75,000 Kenyans only earn 100,000 and above. But if you go to Instagram, it's
a different story.
Oh, it's a new one.
Yes.
So in which case, if 10 million Kenyans, I want to understand if by the poverty is really by design.
Yes.
If 75,000.
It's by design.
Ndio wanafanya tusipumue.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If 10 million Kenyans had access, and this is where I think I start to get the concept differently of how broken the money system is. If 10 million Kenyans earned $1 million every month, what does the situation look like? Is this now where inflation comes through? because everybody has money, right? 10 million in a population of 50 million,
Yes.
wakiwa na access to 1 million
Yes.
easily.
Yes.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
How?
How? It's that people don't have to charge more for basic services and goods.
Isn't that oversupply of money? See, I think money works in a scarcity.
Yes, it does work.
That's where value goes up.
Yes.
So if 10 million Kenyans are solid millionaires in terms of earnings, doesn't that make it worse?
No, it doesn't make it worse. Let me separate the two. If again the 10 million Kenyans have earned the 1 million shillings, they don't hypothetically need to do more side hustles, more work, more avenues, more things to get what they already have. Costs can actually go down.
If I have 10 million shillings.
You do.
And I earn 1 million bob. And you have 20 million. We are all millionaires.
Yes.
And we want this phone. We want this specific phone. It's rare. And this phone, we could probably get it for 200K. We are competing for this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If I offer the person selling 200,000,
yes,
you come and offer 500,000.
Yes.
I can still offer
Counter
a
offer.
million.
Yes.
We can counter offer like this mpaka tuone nani atafinya sana.
Yes.
Sindio?
Yes.
Isn't that how prices of things go up?
Not necessarily. That's in an auction setup. Strictly auction setup. Okay, in an auction, for example, if I say we are bidding, we're looking at an optimal price for that object. Right? But for basic goods and services, let's say salt, bread, milk.
As someone who sells salt.
Yes.
Why would I sell you salt at 10 shillings? And I know
that you can sell it.
You can buy it
Yes.
for 2 million.
For 2 million. No, not for 2 million. Who buys salt for 2 million?
Because isn't that how Zimbabwe got to where they are?
Right. Let's cross over to inflation and hyperinflation. So inflation is that the money supply in an economy is increasing, that more currency is issued or printed. It's introduced into the economy, right? If I think about it as a basket of goods, or what other analogy can I use? Juice. Let me say juice, the concentrated juice. If you have this concentrated juice as one, you could either make 2 jugs from the same juice because it's concentrated. We could make 5 jugs which are diluted. It's the same juice. But in this other case, you have more juice that you want to serve. But as the people who are receiving the juice, they're like, I'm drinking water, not juice. You know? So in the sense of increasing money supply, this money that has been printed does not correlate necessarily with the amount of business that's being done, products, goods, and services.
Okay.
Right? So let's say the GDP growth for Kenya that the last year was between 5.5%, 6% on the higher side, right? But the money supply was 9% on average. Recent statistic pointed that it was a cumulative of 19%, right? So all your goods, all your services capped at 5. This other one of the money supply,
yes,
higher. Let me give another example. During the lockdown period, China produced net of all those restrictions in spite $2 trillion. Her Western neighbor, darling US, printed between $4 and $6 trillion. You trade, we print. Is that a fair system?
No, it's not.
We haven't worked. So you understand why now they had to increase their interest rates. So on paper, increasing the money supply looks like a good thing, because how it's been taught, even as I studied like my undergraduate in economics, it's that on paper, in principle, what's expected, what you're supposed to follow is that if there's more money supply, then you work to earn more. That if, let's say in a place where you lose water or water is rationed, and then they bring the water tanker here. So it means that if you want more water, bring bigger storage. That's the logic of inflation.
Okay.
So the tank is here, the tank will be open, but if you want more water, don't bring small containers, bring bigger containers. So the bigger containers representing how much value you're supposed to get is that do more business, hire more people, you know, do actual work in the real economy.
Sawa.
That's the assumption.
Sawa.
But it doesn't get to us all the time.
But human nature,
Yes.
I believe,
Yes.
this is we can agree on this. In terms of science and research done on humans,
Yes.
if 53 million Kenyans right now, right, there is what experts wanasema, if we were told to tutoke nje, we sell everything and divide the money equally amongst ourselves. Kila mtu apewe yake, pewe yake.
Everyone.
Let's say, for example, every Kenyan, tunaanza fresh.
Yes.
Every Kenyan gets a million. Wanasema over a period of time, not specified, the wealth distribution will go back
Yes.
to where it is now.
Yes.
So is the problem people or problem the money system?
I like to think of it now in that sense as the money system doesn't know we exist. Like this phone or our phones here just exist. They don't know we exist. But once I take this phone, I'm going to use it for a specific reason, right? So the money system in itself is a greater reflection of societal dynamics.
So the problem is not the money system.
Yes.
It's humanity that is broken, not the money system that is broken.
I'd actually like to see it that way.
Then we should not focus on changing the money system. Whatever we hope to change, ama we hope would change with the Bitcoin, human beings will still find a way, ama digital currency or digital assets, the problems will be the same.
We can anticipate that, definitely. The thing is, as you're talking, as you mentioned earlier, the Russian roulette, the chance, if you have a chance.
Yes.
Yeah, randomness. I've grown up in Kenya. I might be better off than someone in the US.
Yes, true.
Might be.
Yes.
Might
True.
be.
Yes.
If I don't have the same level of debt that they do. This is assuming that this is an average American who's working maybe 2-3 jobs, and they have student loan, they have a car loan, they have a house loan, they have several loans that are, you know, chasing at them. Our quality of life will be different. But at the end of the day, it's that we need to consider that possibility of chance. Because even when we talk about people looking for better opportunities in other countries,
Yes.
it's a chance. You don't have a solid guarantee that your life will change.
So what's your idea of better quality of life?
What's my idea?
In fact, I've changed my perspective. The money system is not broken. It's people who are broken, right? Because you said it's a tool.
It's a tool.
How I use
It's a
this
technology,
phone, I'm the
yes.
one who determines
Yes.
how I use this technology. In fact, technology is a good word. Money is a technology.
Yes.
So how it impacts us, it's more about us than the system, right? So what's the best formula to get the best quality of life?
Best quality of life. Now, this on a personal level, it's that you're able to work on your mentality. You're able to work on your character, your values, and how you interact with the world, right? You could decide that you've maybe you've had good cards dealt your way, grown up in safety, stability, and, you know, like let's say you don't have too many stresses that you're dealing with. And you decide that I'm not just going to live a basic life. I don't just want a house, a car, a business, and a few comforts to keep me, on a basic baseline. I could decide that I want to make an impact in my community or in my generation. And this is where we see people going out with different initiatives, serving underserved communities, serving people who are less privileged, right? And you go out of your way basically to make sure that you light someone else's path. You make life better for someone else, not just a selfish consumption 24/7 till you check out of the planet.
This is outside the concept of financial security,
Yes.
financial freedom.
It's connected in a way, in the sense that for some people, they don't wait to achieve financial security and stability to make an impact. They do a lot with the little that they have and where they are.
You do a lot with the little that you have,
Yes.
where you are.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. There's so many stories of impact where you're like, not a millionaire, but you're making an impact in people's lives.
But how is this different from the people who, let's say, for example, you've been blessed and
Yes.
the sad case is off, you've had all the money, umesaidia watu, alafu we ukaishiwa mkatoshana. So people are actually laughing at you that you had a chance and you squandered it.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, in the grand scheme of life, there's what we can learn, there's what we don't control. That's why I mentioned that it's important to stay humble, that I don't have a guarantee of everything that I'm going to do or all the opportunities I'll have. What I can do is make the best of it, right? And this is acknowledging that in whatever monetary system I'm interacting, let me know that I'm not controlled or subject to the terms that are in this particular monetary system.
You're not subject to.
Yes.
But no man is an island.
Yes, no one is alone. We are connected. That's what
You
I'm saying.
cannot exist outside the system.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a journey. Like, you need to have your own awareness, your own pursuit, your own drive, the things that will get you out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
Because if you do stay in your comfort zone, you are subject to the system.
Sawa.
Yes.
In the knowledge you have gathered. In fact, one of the reasons I was excited, again, I have very many reasons to be excited for this conversation. Your view of the banking sector, right?
Yeah.
And you transitioned from the formal system, banking ni nini, and your full advocate were digital assets, right?
Yes.
What's your understanding of the banking system? What has kept it going, or what has kept it growing? And why did you decide to go fully digital?
Right, thanks for that. The banking system has grown on the basis of trust. That if I have my deposit in Bank X or Bank Y, they will keep my money safely. They will keep it in trust as a custodian. And anytime I need to invest or grow, the bank will be like my partner in my pursuits. This is where we see people looking to get, for example, preferential loan terms, or the perks that definitely come with being a long-term customer in a bank. But banks over time, remember, do not protect you from inflation and lost purchasing power. At the end of the day, your relationship with the bank is the deposit that you fundamentally have.
And the interest that you pay back.
Exactly. Or the gain that you have from the different products that are in the bank. We've seen this relationship interfered with or violated in some instances, such as when a bank either is insolvent or goes bankrupt, and you cannot access the very deposit you left there in the bank. A few years ago, that was Imperial Bank and Chase Bank. Any depositor who had money there, any customer who had savings there, they couldn't get their money. And they just, what you're told is basically, you can't access your account, you can't get your deposit back. The bank is, in these technical terms that at that point in time, don't make sense to you. But it's a violation of your trust. Now, when the bank is making its obligations in such a case, they have to pay their creditors, they have to liquidate their assets. You as the depositor, especially if your deposits were not protected, you're at the end of the line. So this situation of banks at having that risk that they may not act in your best interest, it exists.
But we have banks, those
Yes.
are isolated cases. We have banks that have existed for over 50, 60,
Yes.
70 years without having those issues, right? doesn't that give them the credit of being safe
It does.
vehicles?
It does. It definitely does. And that's why I mentioned the fact that they have existed on the basis of trust, credibility over the years, being able to serve even generations of people, right? But what they do not protect you from is your loss of purchasing power and what inflation does to.
Okay.
Yes.
What inflation does to your money?
Yes. Remember the scenario we're talking about. If these 10 million Kenyans have a million, you all have a million in the bank, right? One interesting statistic that was analyzed recently, I think only NCBA Bank has about the highest number of accounts that hold above 500,000 shillings.
The highest number of accounts holding a
Over 500,000 shillings in deposits. Second is Equity KCB and the tier 1 banks, tier 2 banks, and that number goes down until you have banks that do not have depositors with over 500,000 shillings, right? But remember that this either 1 million shillings or 500,000 shillings that's in the bank is in trust of the bank. If it loses value while it is in the bank, you still have a million, but you will do less in the real world with that same money.
Can you feel it in real time? In this sense, if you have 500,000 and it has reduced
Yes.
by say 5%,
Yes.
5%, that's say 25,000
Yes.
by the end of the year. Can you feel it real time?
Do you feel it real time? Let me give an example of cars. In the cab business, say most Bolts, Ubers, they tend to, or rather the majority will be, let's say, Vitz, Paso, this other one, what's it called?
Alto.
Yeah, Vitz, Paso, Alto, and there's a fourth one. There's a bit of a Magic 4. Magic 4, I don't remember, but
Demio.
yes, Vitz, Demio, Alto, Paso, right? Because they were under their a million mark. Now,
Yes.
they went to
1.4 something.
1.2, 1.4, 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
In the same period as, remember our debt situation. Our debt situation went up. So more taxes were demanded. At the same time, there's inflation. At the same time, there's global supply dynamics that were in the background.
So, I've excused this thing you're saying, Ati, a Demio. I remember there was a time I was tempted to buy someone a Demio.
Yes.
It was going for 650.
Yes.
Now, it's going for 1.4
Yes.
and probably more, right?
Yes.
So now, this margin, I've always excused it for, and now I feel stupid, excused it for, Ati, the newer model
Yes.
has better features, it's an upgrade. Not necessarily.
Let me give an example. Lockdown period. It was
Yes.
significant. I mean, with the world going more digital and people demanding digital devices because they're working from home and had to be confined, there was a higher demand, of course, on chips.
Yes.
Right? So phone manufacturers, car manufacturers, electronics manufacturers all have to share the same limited pool of chips.
Yes.
So the immediate effect of that was just production lines extending their timeline. So if, for example, if it took you 3 months to get a new 0 mileage car, that would extend to 3 years.
Okay.
Yes. You've just extended it into the future, right? But on the Kenyan scene, just as you've said, you've gone from 650 to almost double the value.
Yeah, true.
Double why? Double in 3 years. Okay, did they add that many features?
It looks
okay. Let's even just use the car terms. New shape.
Yes, new shape.
New shape. You're told to pay how much more? 100,000 more, 200,000 more. Let's think about it.
But
yes.
when you look at the margins,
yes,
the margins of the car sales, and I think this is subject to confirmation.
Yeah.
If a car dealer was making, let's say, between 50K to 100 on a small car like
Yes.
a Demio
Yes.
in 2021, I think the margins are still the same, but the cost of the vehicle has gone high.
Yes. So that's why I said, like, each of these things are connected. We can't isolate them,
Okay.
right? So inflation as a single factor is up, right? As we said, that your million in the bank is buying you less. So because it's buying you less, you need more cash.
So if I had, say,
Yes.
$1 million
Yes.
in 2019,
Yes.
and I could buy a Demio
Yes.
at 650,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if I chose to hold that idea to today, I cannot afford a Demio.
You cannot afford a Demio.
In 2019, I could buy the Demio and remain with some change.
Yes.
But now, I cannot afford the Demio,
Or you
and
have to take a loan.
I need to add more.
Or you have to take a loan.
That's the best explanation. You're losing value. But then the other variable is we are assuming that this is the same exact car.
Yes.
Because remember, the same exact car that I could have bought for 650, if someone still had it, right, the value would go down.
Yes.
And I would buy it for
At a discount.
a discount.
Yes.
Say probably 400 or 350.
Yes.
So are we doing this math wrong?
We're not doing it wrong. It's that old Demio, let's say it's a 2010 Demio.
Yes.
If it's a 2010 Demio, and this is 3 years down the line, of course it's gone through its own wear and tear, depreciation, and if you're buying that same Demio, it has gone down in price.
No, assuming
yes.
The car that I was to buy the Demio at 650 has kept the same Demio.
The same Demio, yes.
Not used
if
locally.
they've kept it, yes.
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 The value of that same Demio would actually be lower than 650, right?
That's hypothetical. Because within, again, the supplier like circles, yes, it's an old unit. It has not been used. But what's the incentive for someone to buy an old unit instead of a new one?
Okay.
Yes. There's, okay, again, a bit of a Kenyan feature. People look at the number plates. Why should I buy a...
That is sentimental.
It's sentimental.
Yes.
But remember, it's all these things are going into the price. Because inflation has its role to play. Taxes have their role to play. Demand has its role to play. Because if more people are selling bigger cars to buy Demios, there's higher demand. So that same 650, the seller will decide, let me add an extra 30,000. Because more people want this.
More people want that.
Yes.
In terms of perception,
Yes.
right? Can we say basi money is more about perception? In this sense, if I could, let's say for example, the average cost of owning a V8, if I can afford it, right?
Yes.
For the same reason, you're moving from point A to point B. So if I can afford a V8 and then I choose to drive a Demio,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Deliberately.
Yes.
Right?
Because you can.
Because I can. So the Demio budget of buying the car is equivalent to the budget of maintaining the V8, right? Does it mean that I've bought myself better quality of life by choosing to downgrade?
You're choosing convenience, right? If we use, for example, fuel as a comparison point, let's say for the V8 you needed, let's say 15,000 per tank. Give or take 15 to 18,000 per tank, right?
Yes.
And then for the Demio you need what, 2,000 or 3,000 per tank. The extra difference on the money, I'll spend it on something else. That's assuming that I wanted that cash difference.
Assuming that you wanted that cash difference.
Yes, because for a car owner, at the end of the day, you have other things that you're taking care of. Life is dynamic, right? If you want to spend, for example, on a nice getaway to Zanzibar or Watamu, and you want to spend a couple of days, you decide, my V8 can stay aside, let me use the V8, save that cash, and go for a nice trip somewhere. that's value that's coming back to you that you would have spent on fuel maintenance and, let's say, spare parts if you so needed them for replacement.
Okay.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay.
So like we're not static. I think for me the most important thing that I'm even learning from our discussion is we think of money as this nameless, faceless system. You know, because when you're talking about a system,
Yeah.
it's obscure, it's big, it's government, it's billions, it's GDP, all those terms that we put up there.
Yes.
But if we break money down to you and me interacting, it's, do you like this?
Yes.
You're not thinking about GDP, cost cap, all those other complex terms at the point that you're making a decision.
Yes.
So it's money is interconnected, life is interconnected, society is interconnected. What we can learn or appreciate is that over time, there are things that have worked well. There are parts of success that have worked better than others. Just as you said, in the days of barter trade, there are things that worked then. You could make profit if you were, you had more factors of production. Like you have more animals, you have a bigger farm. Of course, you'll be richer than someone who has a smaller farm. In the era of the gold standard, if you were one of the first people to mine gold and you had more gold, of course, you'd be richer than others, right?
Yes.
And in this era of the debt system,
Yes.
there are people who have made it because some have become investors, some have secured high salaries, some have, merged the two worlds of investing and salary to secure themselves for the future. But at the same time, we do have casualties, if I may use that word, of each of these systems, right?
Okay.
Because if in the barter system, it was that the rich took advantage of the poor to enforce slavery because they're like, you don't have land, you don't have the means, come work for me, but I'll pay you peanuts. That's people taking advantage of people. In the gold era, it's that if a gold merchant decided to overprice gold and eventually now poorer people couldn't afford it, it's that was there because of the human aspect. And the same thing within the deficit system that we see today, it's that those that are at the top levels of policy, if they make policies that they don't necessarily, that policies that don't affect them or they don't live under those policies, and other people bear the brunt of those policies, that's the space of broken money that I'm talking about, in the sense that millions are trying so hard to work just to make a living, make life make sense, but these terms just keep adding hurdles on them, while at the same time, there are people who are extracting and getting more money from the same system. So these things exist at the same time.
So the secret is basically understanding what's going and getting into the system and operating with it.
Yes.
So now, when it comes to digital assets, for example, as the new system, what's the practicality of going fully digital and embracing digital assets? In this sense, I saw an application, or it's a system, or is it a software that someone created, whereby they created a full map of the world. It's a very interesting full map of the world, and you could actually buy like a certain place and get like a title of that place.
Like a digital
title. And no one can actually buy that again. So it's, for example, online, someone can buy Upper Hill at a certain amount of money. And they actually own it like the actual place. Right? And based on the concept, it's actually value. Because if someone else wants to own Upper Hill online, they can actually, they have to negotiate and buy Upper Hill from you. Right? And it's perception, and there are people making money from that. Same as NFTs, which is, I think, the new, I've not dealt into NFT, but I think, I don't know, maybe it can be sold to me like Bitcoin was. So now, what's the practicality of a full migration from the way we moved from barter trade to the fiat currency, to the gold standard to fiat currency, into digital fully.
Fully.
Yes.
I'll begin with we may not have fully in terms of expectations. Why? Because the wave of awareness, it's there's usually this curve. It's a graph called the innovation adoption curve, and it says that the early adopters, there's the early majority, there's the late majority, and then there are laggards in the brackets because like they're the last people
Laggards
to
are the
even
poor
know.
people of all the systems.
Not the poor, just the ones who don't adopt, don't know, right? So if we travel, do you remember the example of traveling around the world?
Yes.
There are people right now who, for example, in China, you scan pretty much everything, whether you're buying vegetables, you're buying electronics, scan everywhere.
And you pay.
Alipay,
Like you
WeChat.
pay by scanning.
Yes, Alipay and WeChat have transformed how people buy and sell goods in the country. In some other economies, people are still heavy on cash. That they don't want anything digital. Can you force them to go digital?
No, you can't.
No, you cannot. But for those that now exist in the blend of digital and cash, they have the flexibility, right? We're having that I would say migration in some countries where some governments want all systems to be digitized. But you realize that on a technical level, that can happen. Why? Because, for example, internet access is not 100% in all countries. Africa stands at 30%, right? But in that gap of, say, digital / analog devices, there are applications that have online services on USSD, right? Like you can just have your normal feature phone, SIM-based service, essentially speaking. So that said, it's that the fact that these digital assets and systems exist is that they are there, right? People may determine or may not want them. They cannot be forced.
Okay.
Right? So let me give an example of Bitcoin. One of the reasons why I've put in time to study and to eventually adopt and to the point of advocating for it is that it's a limited, it's a scarce asset in the sense that you have only 21 million, right? Some may have more, some may have less. But how it works is that over a 4, 8, 12, 16-year period, the longer I hold however or whatever amount of Bitcoin I have, the rise in percentage is the same for everyone. Okay, that it's not that we are equalized, but the rate is the same for everyone. If I have 1 Bitcoin, someone else has 2, someone else has 0.5, and it goes up by 40% or it goes up by 200%,
It goes up for
everybody gets that 200% rise, okay? So I'll give an example. In 2016, yes, Bitcoin was around $600 or say 60K, give or take back by the exchange rate at the day. Right now, Bitcoin is in that ballpark of $59,000 to $60,000. So this is 2016 to 2024, about 8 years. It's gone up, what, 10 times as much? No, wait, not 10 times as much, 100 times as much, actually. It was from $600 to 60K. That's a big gap. But in between, some people have seen it go down and they're like, no, I'm selling everything. Don't want anything to do with it. They've completely cashed out, didn't want to touch it. It's too volatile. That's what they said.
But for the person who bought in 2016, they
Yes.
have lost nothing. In fact, they've gained
Gained.
100 times over.
But how long did you have to wait? 8 years.
8 years.
To see the 100x difference, right? So this is, again, I come back to the time and patience that if you're looking at a digital asset as something that's supposed to give you return now, don't use it. The impatience will work against you. In the traditional or the conventional stock world, investors like Warren Buffett have been icons or literally immortalized in the idea of compound investing. It's people who've invested for decades. And they talk about compound interest as if it's doctrine in the investing world. Because if you make, remember the highs, the lows, the highs, the lows. If Apple as an example, Tesla as another example, if you got your initial shareholding at hundreds or tens of dollars, and that same asset has gone up 2,000%, you had to wait. So it's the same thing with digital assets that, as you mentioned, for example, Upper Hill being digitized or tokenized, someone is able to buy and sell in a way that they're going to have that ownership guaranteed to them, or that right accorded to their name. So the fact is, if you're going to realize value, time is your friend. If you are impatient, then don't, just leave it, because it's not going to do you right. It's
So
not
what
going
is
to
the
benefit
vehicle
you.
for the impatient people?
For impatient people,
Betting.
honestly not. I mean, why? Again, betting just takes you back to the Russian roulette. You could lose or win.
So there's, as in, we can actually so conclude by kusema, like that part, we can conclude by saying your best bet in making money is time.
Yes.
Big money and time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you bought, let's say, for example, the equivalent of 60K today,
And you
60K,
held.
yeah, equivalent of 60K in digital assets in 2016, the right digital asset is around 10 million Kenya shillings today. 10 million, Bob.
Yes.
So kama if you are smart enough to invest 60,000 in 2016, you're better off than someone who probably bought a piece of land for $1 million,
Yes.
right?
And we
But
can
again,
compare.
that's chance, because there is someone who can buy a piece of land, and then the government says barabara inapitia hapa. Again, someone offers you 20 million for that. So we are back to chance and speculation in every platform that you will decide to put your money in. Right?
Of which, again, bias for Bitcoin is that if someone is starting with 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, it's open. If for land you need that 500,000, that 1 million, and your salary is not even looking like it's going to take care of your basic needs, when are you going to buy that land?
So the game is permanently rigged against certain people for good.
For good. That's why, even if from this discussion,
Yes.
someone does not bother to research history or Bitcoin or investment, why that's important, I will say take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Don't just see, this is my income, this is what I have to do, this is me. Don't get stuck here. Open up. Just open up and see what's out there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Mazi. Asante sana.
Yes.
Asante sana for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Tumecover as much as possible. Let me just check.
Wow, yes.
Tumecover as much as possible that we had planned to talk about. The risks of the money systems, tumeona zote. I think we have one thing, just one more thing, smart contracts.
Yes.
What are smart contracts?
Right. This is an agreement that can be executed in basically a digital format, which is automated, instead of like traditional, I sign contract paper. Yes. So it's just digitizing and automating a contract.
And how binding is it?
It is binding. Just as binding as a legal contract.
So accountability.
Yes.
What are the accountability procedures for smart contracts?
Basically that if you and I want to initiate the sale of an asset or the acquisition of a property, that we will initiate the agreement. And then instead of, for example, traditional paper and pen, that we will actually agree to use a specific digital platform to enforce the contracts.
And what are the consequences like for people who breach smart contracts?
There's the space of legal arbitration. So that's been building up slowly over time, but
It's not like fully adopted.
Yes, it's in progress.
Okay.
Yes.
Kwa hivyo bado it's something that's being tested.
But it's a big opportunity for lawyers. Yes. Digital law, digital asset law, arbitration, it's a huge opportunity.
So kwa hivyo sahi we can say that smart contracts are not as in still
they haven't
trust.
been widely adopted.
Okay.
Remember just the adoption curve. There is more companies in the debate phase. Should we do this? Should we not? So remember, it's just a matter of time. But
So
that's the future. It's definitely in our future. Yes, trust.
And the federal system of money, like the
reserve.
No, not the reserve. Like the money system that we're using right now is centralized, right?
Yes.
There are benefits of the decentralized system overall, as in terms of fixing.
Yes.
We have already agreed that the people are the problem. Does the decentralized system fix people?
Here's the winning parts. For example, with Bitcoin, the decentralized system removes the concentration of power from any individual or group of individuals. Okay. It takes away that center so that everybody has the same rights in the same system.
The same right?
Yes.
Until, okay, we discussed that with Rufus, whatever come may, Bitcoin will never fall beyond a certain point.
Yes.
Because I saw someone from one of the big banks debating that comparatively, when people say at the price of Bitcoin, the legit cryptocurrency has gone down, the stock for some of the big companies have gone down for around the same percentage.
Yes. Okay. Most people say that when Bitcoin is down, for example, 5%, 4%, that's a failure, that's wrong, that's down. But when a stock falls 10%, you're hoping, please come back up, please come back, please come back up, please come back up. And right now, where are we? We've gone from individual adoption of Bitcoin to institutional adoption of Bitcoin.
Okay.
So on the individual, it's that. It was mostly just computer groups, cypherpunks here and there, interested, curious people, just, what is this Bitcoin? Let me see what to do with it, here and there. That was the early years. Then companies slowly, countries, El Salvador being one of the first, then corporates now. We're seeing at least $8, $9, $10 billion in corporate flows going to Bitcoin ETFs. Because institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity are buying on behalf of their customers, such that if these customers don't buy Bitcoin directly, they'll hold what is in the ETF as an exposure to Bitcoin.
Okay.
So it's like saying, I don't want the Bitcoin, but if it's going to have returns, let me have some of the returns.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sawa sawa, asante sana Roselyne for making time for us.
Yes.
I have enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Asante.
Yes.